Alright guys, let's take a look at the interface of FL Studio. So as you can see, first we have the close, minimize and maximize buttons on the left hand side here. Instead of the usual case in Windows is that these three buttons here are on the right side. But yeah, I'm using Mac for FL Studio for this course, but it's the same thing for Windows or for Mac. So all of these buttons will be on the left hand side. And if you're using Mac OS, your buttons for close, minimize and maximize are always on the left hand side anyway. So this change is only going to affect Windows users. Different buttons on this side that you will open and close all of the time when you're working in FL Studio. So let's take a look at them. I will close this playlist window right now, so just close it like that. This is the mixer, I'm going to close it as well. So here you can see, first button is the playlist. So you open and close it by just clicking the playlist button here. Next one we have is the piano roll. Next one we have is the channel rack, which is this one. Then we have the mixer. And then we have the browser and plugin picker. So this is how it usually looks when you load up FL Studio for the first time. And as you can see, there are a lot of different buttons here. There are a lot of things going on here already when you start FL Studio for the first time. So as you can see here, I have the close, minimize and maximize buttons. And these are the only buttons that differs between the Windows version and the Mac version. Other than that, we have the menus, file, edit, add, patterns, view, options, tools, and help. So we will cover these menus in a later lecture. For instance, you have all of the regular open and save, import, export. The edit is just copy. Then you have add, and this is all of the plugins that you can add into your projects. And yeah, so you have different plugins here, but also effects. And we will cover all of these plugins in a separate lecture later on. Patterns, also, we will also do a separate lecture about that. Then we have the view, options. So there are a lot of different options in FL Studio, but we will cover that as well. Then we have the tools. There are different tools in FL Studio, and we have the help section as well. And in this course, we will not cover FL Studio in depth because we want to learn FL Studio in a day basically. So I will cover all of the basics in FL Studio and everything that you need to know to produce music. So you have a lot of different options in FL Studio since FL Studio is a massive program to create music and audio editing, MIDI editing, and other music production related tasks that you can do in FL Studio. But in this course, we will cover everything you need to know to produce music. All of the different artists and producers out there that uses FL Studio, they know this that I'm going to teach you in this course. And we're also going to have a separate course, which is going to be a lot longer than this one. And we will cover everything in depth. But I think it's very important to learn your digital audio workstation very fast so you can get starting to use your digital audio workstation and produce music as quick as you can. Yeah, so instead of just watching a course that is, let's say, 20 hours long or something like that, where we learn that you're not really going to use at all in the future. Instead of that, we're focusing on what you need to know and also how to start to create music, because this course is all about that. Okay, so next thing that we have here, typing keyboard to piano keyboard. So if you have this enabled, then you can play your keyboard like your physical keyboard on your computer with the MIDI keyboard. So as soon as I play something, or as soon as I type something on my keyboard here, then we will have some sound outputs here. I'm just pressing my keyboard, physical keyboard on my laptop here. So if I disable this, I can't really play with the MIDI in FL Studio at all. Yeah, but when I have this enabled, I just play it like that. Next thing that we have here, scrolls to reach time markers. We go back here to the left. This section here is our transport section. So here we can basically go to, let's see here, song position. So if you want to get forward or backward in your track, because we don't have anything here in the track right now, so you can't really scroll through the track right now, but this is the way to go when you have a lot of different clips inside of the arrangement here. Then you can just scroll around it with this here. Then we have next one here, pattern or song or pattern mode. So if this is enabled, then you will play the whole song. If you have this enabled, that will only play the selected pattern. We'll cover this as well. You will see that in the production section. So you will see how this is going to work live later on. Then you have the play, and then you have the stop here, record, and this is the tempo. So you can just select the tempo by dragging like this. You can also do it more finely like that as well if you go to this section with the 3 zeros here. Now let's take a look at all of these buttons here. So the first one is the view playlist. So this is the playlist which is going to have an arrangement in. Then, yeah, and you can also enable or disable it by just clicking and again. Then you have next one, piano roll. So you enable and disable the piano roll here. Then you have the channel rack. Just enable and disable it. Mixer, like that. Browser and plugin picker. So you have all of your sounds and plugins here. Then we have something called Open Project Plugin Picker. Then we have Tempo Tapper. And then you have Touch Controller. So the two last buttons here, I'm just going to cover this really quickly because I won't cover this later on in this course. But a tempo tapper is basically when you want to find a tempo, and you just tap this here, and this will detect the tempo of your tapping basically. And I'm used to produce with a tempo around 128 BPM, so it may be why this tempo is here. Then we have next one, touch control and touch controller here. Then we have the next one here, touch controller. This is like a MIDI keyboard, but with these touchpads here instead. You can also see the tonality of all of these touchpads here as well. And here is launch content library. So if I click on it here, that will load up a browser with Image Line's website, where we can find their own content library that we can download. Then you have online content and events, so you can find different news about FL Studio here. Then we have next section, so patterns. You can load up different patterns that you're going to create. So the patterns are basically just like clips that you can just browse out like that. And here we have the pattern selector, so you can select the different patterns that you're working with. And with patterns, if I click something on the arrangement here, let's say that I want some MIDI data from 5 here, let's say. I just click it like that. I can resize it and I can delete it by just right click my mouse. So I left click to create it and right click to delete it. And that is basically how you do everything in FL Studio. So if you're creating the MIDI data in piano roll, for instance, you click the left to create a MIDI let's say a MIDI section or a MIDI data, and then you right click to just get rid of it. So let's say that yeah, this is just the first pattern. So as you can see, if I click here and there, or let's say that I click as much as I want, all of this is going to be linked to pattern 1. So pattern 1, let's get rid of all of these here. Pattern 1 is just because we have selected pattern 1 in the pattern selector. So what patterns is that they contain some MIDI data, or sometimes even audio as well. So let's say that we have a pattern 1 here, and we have that selected here. I can go to the piano roll. Now I can write out something. Let's say I have it like that. So now we have the pattern 1 here. So as soon as I click somewhere, I get the same pattern because we have the pattern 1 selected. But let's say that we want to create some other kind of, let's say, kick rhythm here, because I have it created like the pattern 1 here. So if I just go to pattern 2, so I go up or press just plus, I can also create the name there, or I can go here and I can find next empty, for instance, so like that. So now that is the pattern 3. So now I can go to the piano roll. I can write out something else. Let's say I want that kind of pattern for the pattern 3. So now if I click here, you will have the pattern 3 with the same data that we created in the pattern 3 that we're going to discuss later on when we're creating our track. Maybe it doesn't make sense for you right now, and that is totally fine. Maybe you're just out there thinking, what is this guy talking about? And I will tell you everything you need to know about patterns when we're creating music, because that is going to be the easiest way to explain how these patterns work. It's good to know for you that you have this pattern system introduced. I have these buttons here, as you can see: undo, open new audio editor, like that. One-click audio recording, you can get more help. You can save as new version, so save as. Then you have render as audio file, and then you have view project info. I see all of these buttons here as shortcuts, and I don't think you will use them that often. I don't do that. So yeah, but it's good to know that they are there, and if you want to, let's say, render as an audio file, and then you have that shortcut here. So that is actually really nice to have. Then we have the song position. So you can see the song position, or you can see minutes, seconds, like that. And then you have bars like this. Then we have the monitor, so you can see all of the audio that is outputted. You can also click on it to get different wave spectrum. And you have the peak meter here as well. Then we have the CPU load, so you can see how much your computer is actually working when you're creating or working with your project. Then you have the memory usage, so this will show all of the RAM or RAM memory that FL Studio is using right now. CPU load history, so you can actually see where or when the spikes of the CPU or the processor in your computer is happening. Then you have the amount of voices being processed there as well, and CPU panel. And then we have some more buttons here. So typing keyboard to piano keyboard that I explained before. You have scrolls to reach time markers, step editing mode, enable notes. You have multi-link to controllers, so you can actually control different stuff that is happening to a MIDI controller. Then we have the metronome, wait for input to start playing, countdown before recording, blend recording, and loop recording. So all of these functions here are pretty self-explanatory, but I will still use some of them in this course, and I will use the functions that I think are really the most necessary to feel comfortable using when you're creating music. So the most important things that you need to know and that you're actually going to use day by day is to switch between the pattern and the song. So you can do it like that. And I will explain in a moment what this does, the song and pattern mode. You can also change the tempo here, as I showed before. You can also right click and choose different tempos, or you can go to set here and you can just choose the tempo like that by increasing and decreasing like that if you want to. You can also go to type in value here and just type in the value that you want like that. And as you can see on all of the things I hover here, you can see this little window here or this little section here in FL Studio where everything is explained. So as you can see, it tells you that this is the typing keyboard to piano keyboard, for instance, and this is scrolls to reach time markers, for instance, and so on and so forth. So you can also see the different key commands for that. For the function that I'm hovering over here. You can see Command B there, for instance. And here we have all of the recording and editing buttons here. And here are all of the Windows buttons. And there's the pattern selector as well. You can also rename the pattern here. So let's say that we want to rename it as test. And you can also drag up and down here to select the different patterns. So as soon as I do that, you can see that it's adding a pattern to the playlist. It may not make any sense to you right now what these patterns does and why it shows up in the playlist, but I will explain that more in depth in a while. I will also create a full track in this course, so you will see how I use the playlist and use the different patterns as well. So I think that will make a lot more sense to you when you're watching me create that track live. The way it works with FL Studio when you're creating songs is that you're creating patterns, and then you're taking these patterns or clips and just arrange them in the playlist, so that way you arrange the track. So let's close all of these windows here like that. So as you can see here, first section we have in FL Studio is the browser section. And here you can see all of the different samples and different files you have on your computer, as well as the different plugins that comes with FL Studio, as well as different plugins that you have as audio units on Mac or VST on PC. And this is the third-party plugins, such as Native Instruments plugins or other plugins that you may have on your computer. Channel rack here. And here are all of the different samples that are stored in this project, basically. So creating patterns within this channel rack. And after that, when you're creating the pattern, you can insert that pattern to the playlist. So the channel rack contains all of the samples that you have in the project. And here is also where you create the patterns that you will have in the playlist here to create the track. Easily explained, you create your patterns within the channel rack, then you drag the channel rack into the playlist. You can have as many patterns as you want in the playlist. Then you will chop them up, you can copy, paste them over, you can loop them, you can arrange them wherever you want. So you're basically painting out the patterns here in the arrangement or in the playlist here. So that is how you create the track. Mixer section here. So here is the mixer, all of the different channel tracks here that goes out to the master, as you can see. And I will explain a lot more within the mixer, what it does and how you work with it in a separate video. So just so you know that. And I'm going to have all of the different sections here, all of the channel rack, the playlist, the mixer section, the browser, as well as separate videos, just so you will know what they do. It's good to know exactly in depth what they do before working with it. I still don't believe in like explaining a very much in theory behind the different sections. I mean, all of these different sections are basically the different elements that you need to have to create your track. It's just that it works different in FL Studio comparing to other digital audio workstations. So you need to know how to do that in FL Studio, and I will show that by creating a full track. I think you will learn FL Studio the most when watching me creating the full track. So let's close all of these windows here. We're going like that. All right, so now we have everything closed. So I will explain you exactly how the signal flows through here in the FL Studio. So first you have the browser, and you can see all of the different files in the browser and all of the different files that we have, the plugins as well. As you can see here, this is the current project, so you can also search for different patterns, effects, generators, and the history, what you have done in the current project here as well. You can also see the plugin database, so you will just get the plugins here, so you can find all of the FL Studio's built-in effects and generators here, as well as the installed effects or generators. So let's say that I have some different VST plugins here, the third-party plugins, so you can see all of them here as well. And you just double-click on the plugin to load it up as well. So if you go to the browser here, and you go to all, so you can see the same thing here as well as here. You can also create a new snap, so you can create your own view of the different things that you want to have in the browser. But if you go back to all, you can also search for different samples that we have here in the browser as well. If you want your own folder here, as you can see, there are different preset folders here. You can add them in. So let's say that I have a sample pack folder on my hard drive. You can add that to the browser here as well. So you do that by go into options and file settings, and here you can see browser extra search folders. So here I can just press the folder and just find, let's say, a sample pack. All right, so I want that sample pack, or let's say that I want the full sample pack folder. So I'm opening up like that. I can also choose a folder inside of the folder. So let's say that I want Deep House Top Loops folder here as well. So now I can also choose a browser name here if I want to call it something else than the folder. But let's have it like that. And now you can see this is you can expand them like this, like that. So that is very nice to use. And the browser in FL Studio is amazing. It's very fast, it's very quick, it syncs with the tempo if you're working with loops and other stuff like that. So that is very nice. The way the signal flow works in FL Studio is that you choose your samples here in the browser. So let's say that I want to use this sample here. So I just right click and open a new channel, and that will load up this interface here. And this is basically the sampler in FL Studio. You can see the sample, you can browse it like that. You can also drag it like that. You can reverse the sample, normalize. You have a lot of different things you can do here. You can also ADSNR, so you can choose your attack time, you can choose release time of the sample, and a lot more. Pitch range is very nice to have here as well. You can also automate all of these things here, so you can choose the pitch range to go to, let's say, to 12, which is an octave, and then you can automate the pitch, let's say from here to here, and you will have 2 octaves that you can pitch up, for instance. So you can create a riser by that. So you can be very creative with these things that FL Studio has. You can also choose the root nodes. So here you have the root node set to C5, but you can click, let's say, right click here, and you can also choose the zone here. So you can choose how many keys you want the sound to be affecting. So I can now only play from C3 to, let's say, B7 here, as I chose. You can fine tune the different root nodes as well. So yeah, you can do that as well, but this is a drum loop, so I'll just leave it like it is. And now, as soon as I created a new channel, we'll go to the channel rack here, and you see we have that sample. I just imported twice, so I can delete one of those. Okay, so now we have this drum loop here in the channel rack. So what we can do here is to place the samples here, but since this is a drum loop, I don't want to do that. It goes from the channel rack, goes to the playlist here, then to the mixer, out to the master channel, and that is what you hear through your speakers. So let's go back and create a pattern. So I'm going to close these windows here. Let's see, let's do it like that. And the channel rack and that one as well. let's go to the channel rack, and I also want the playlist to be like this. So as you can see, as soon as I put the playlist, the channel rack disappears in the background. So I have to click to get back to it, and as soon as I work with something in the playlist, it disappears. So what we can do by that is to go to this drop down menu in the channel rack and just choose detached like this, and now it will stay here, so I don't have to worry about this disappearing all the time. Otherwise you can just click here to make it disappear and to make it go back. All right, so let's import a sound that we want to have in our project. So every time we load up FL Studio with a new project, you will always get the kick, clap, hat, and snare loaded up as per default. So what we can do here is to go to packs. Let's say here we have different sounds that comes with FL Studio, and I want some drums. So let's say I want a kick drum here. I can click to preview them like that. So let's say that we want 808 kick, and just take from here and drag it onto this space here. That will create a new channel for us with this sample loaded up. Some different instruments. So let's say we want an instrument here. I want a guitar, let's say a classical acoustic guitar, and I can just choose one of these and just drag them in like that as well. So if I click on one of these instruments here, or these samples that we have in this project, we get this little window that I talked about briefly previously, and this is the wrapper as they call it in FL Studio. I can preview the sound by clicking here, as you can hear, and yeah, as I showed before, we can do different stuff, ADSNR and stuff. So that is very nice to have, and you just click on the sound to get the respective wrapper of that sound. More stuff in the channel rack. So as you can see, I have these little dial buttons that you can choose the pan here for all of the different instruments that we have, and the volume here as well. And if we open up the wrapper, you can see that if I choose the volume here, it's linked to the wrapper here as well, like that. Then we have this little dialog box here that is the number for the mixer track that we want to have. So if we open up the mixer, you will see all of these channels that we have in the mixer. So let's say that I want the kick drum to be assigned to channel 10. Then you go and do it like that, and you will also see that this selected instrument here is actually linked or selected here in the mixer as well. You can browse through them like that. You can also go and right click here and choose copy value. You can also do that as well in a lot of different things in FL Studio, that instead of just browsing through like that, you can just right click it, and then we will always go and get this little menu here as well. And they are very handy. You can link to controller to automate stuff, but just for the basic stuff right now, you can copy and paste values, for instance. So let's say that we want to copy this value here and we want the same value in this one. You can just paste the value and you will get exactly the same thing. You can do that with knobs. Let's say you can do that with copy value here, and you can paste the value here, for instance. So that is very handy to have there. And yeah, as I said before, you can browse around them like that. You can also type in values. So let's say we want them to be assigned to mixer track 20. Let's just do it like that as well. All right, so let's create an actual pattern here. So I'm going to close these windows here, and as you can see, I'm on pattern 3 here because we did a test pattern before. But let's go to the plus sign here, and we have the pattern 2 name. So let's create our first track. I'm going to do a kick drum here. I'm going to choose a color, so let's choose that color for now, and just confirm that. And yeah, we have the kick here, and I'm going to change the color of this kick drum as well to the same color, or kind of the same, just so I know that the kick drum in the channel rack is linked to the kick drum in the playlist. Or program the kick pattern in the step sequencer here. So let's do that. You can just click or left click the notes that you want to have in the channel rack. You can also delete them by just right clicking on them like that. You can also drag all of these like that. You can drag it with the right click to get rid of them. So let's program a basic 1/4 kick drum pattern here, and let's just play it. And there is our pattern. So now we have a pattern here, and you can drag it out to the playlist like that, and you can listen to the arrangement with this pattern here. So that is how you create a pattern in FL Studio. It's very easy to do that. Play this pattern here and just go to the mixer. You will see that since we chose this kick drum sample to be linked to the channel track 20 here in the mixer, you will see that the audio output will come out through the mixer track number 20. And now I think you will see the difference between the pattern and the song selection that we had here in the transport control. You can see the song, then we're just going to play what's in the song or what's in the playlist or our arrangement. That's the same thing here. So let's say that we have this kick here. We can actually just go like that. We can create some more here. And now if we play the song, then you will play all of these things that you have here in the playlist. So that is our patterns times 3 basically. So if you go to play here, you will see that we will play all of these patterns in the playlist. But if you go to the pattern mode here, then you will see that the selected pattern here will be played. Actually select the patterns here. So if you go to test here, we don't have anything there, so it would not play anything, and the kick. And you can also browse through the different patterns here. You can also create new one as I showed before, and you can see different settings for this basically. So you can rename a color, you can select in the playlist, you can clone one, that is a very nice one to have. You can also delete and move it up and down. But I think this view is better to do that for. Another option in this channel rack here with the step sequencer, you can also open up something called Graph Editor, which will generate a few different options for the selected notes that you have here. So for instance, you can pitch the notes here. You can also put some different velocity. So there's a lot of different things you can do here. You can also pan the different individual sounds here as well. And you can just play around with this. There's a lot of different things you can do here. Let's take a look at the playlist here. So let's close the channel rack. And the playlist is where we're going to arrange our tracks. So I'm going to take all of these pattern clips here and just move them like that. And as you can see, you add a new pattern by just left click, and you delete it with the right click. You also have a lot of different tools here. So as you can see, we're now at the paint tool, but you can also choose draw tool, which will allow us to just put one and then move it. You can't paint it like with the paint tool, like this. Then we have some different tools. So delete, you just click it and delete it. But that is, I mean, when you're using the paint or draw mode, that will actually be built in by just right clicking on the pattern. Then you have mute, so you can mute an individual pattern like that, and you can also enable the sound like that. See, you can put all of these patterns here in whatever track you want, so you can actually do it like this if you want to, but just to stay organized and let's delete all of these, to have one individual sound per track, it's very nice to just rename, color, and icon the track itself. So let's do that. I'm going to go with kick, put a similar color there as well, and just make it like that. So just to recap some things here, we're going to recreate this project. So let's quickly create a kick drum here, quick drum pattern, or instead of just drawing that out, we can just right click here, fill each 4 steps, and now we have a kick pattern. Cool. So what we're gonna do here is to rename this pattern here, rename and color, kick, and let's color it red. So now we have the kick drum. So let's create a new pattern here, and we're gonna call this clap and snare. Oh yeah, we can also color it as well. And by the way, if you don't like know the color that you want for each instrument, you can just right click here on this pattern, random color. That's it. You can do it that way. So now we have a new pattern here, and I'm going to create a clap like that and a snare like that. Very nice. So let's go back to the kick drum here to just select it and have it on the playlist, and select this pattern, the clap and snare, and have it there as well. So I'm going to rename the playlist arrangement here as well. Like that. And let's go with change color. Yeah, and we want the same color basically, just so we're not confused. So this is that color, and we have a red there as well. Great. We can also change the icon here. So let's say we have a kick drum. That is a kick drum. Claps and snares. So let's do that, for instance. Very nice. So now we can play the song. And there is our song for now. Let's create a new pattern. So pattern 3, and we're going to call this hats. Let's go with the color here as well. Something yellow would be good. And I want to fill each 2 steps. And now we have a hat here as well. So let's play the pattern. Very nice. So we have the hats here, and let's rename color and icon this as well to hats. And we want the same kind of yellow there as well. And now just place the hats pattern there. So now if we choose the song mode, we have a full drum beat now. So that's very nice. What we can do here is to group these tracks, these 3 tracks here, to 1 track. So what you will do here is to right click on the track that you want to group with. So let's say I want to group these 2 tracks with this first track here. I just go to the track that I want to group with above track like that, and do the same thing as well here on the hats track. So now you can see the kick, claps and snare and hats track are grouped together. So you can expand and do like that for this whole group here. So it's very nice. You can just do it like that, and you can minimize things and organize things this way. To group a lot of tracks here, you can just right click on each track, press the letter G like that, and now you can group a lot of different tracks here. It's very handy to have here when organizing stuff in your project, is to just go with auto color group. That will color all of these tracks that you have grouped together. So now it's a lot more organized. You can see the red little background here on all of the clips here that you're going to use in the arrangement in the playlist here. We're working with a channel rack here, and we're working with the step sequencer. What you can do here is to open up the piano roll, and that will give you a lot more flexibility when creating notes. So you can just choose whatever instrument you want here. Let's say we have the kick, clap, and hat and snare. You can just right click on one of them and choose piano roll, and that will take you to the piano roll of the instrument that you clicked. So you can also see that piano roll and the kick. So if I open up clap here, for instance, that's going to open up the piano roll for the clap. And here I can create notes, a lot more precise notes. So like we have now, for instance, in the pattern of the claps and snares here. So let's go to that pattern like that. And now let's go to the piano roll. And now we can see the notes that we created here. So it's basically the same thing as the step sequencer, but you have a lot more flexibility within a piano roll. So what you can do here, you can, let's say we want to resize that note, for instance. You can create new notes. You can pitch notes. You can also delete them by just right-clicking the mouse like that. And you also have the control here. So here you can control different velocities, release. Yeah, you have a lot of different things you can control here. So you're actually controlling the note that you're writing out in the piano roll. So if I want to, like, let's say I want a lower velocity on one of the notes, let's say this note here, I can just lower the velocity like that. Let's take a more in-depth look of the piano roll. So to create a new instrument here, you can just go with the plus sign here, or you can also go to add, and here you have all of the plugins. But let's just go with the plus sign here for now, and I'm gonna go with Fruity or FL Keys. And this is a very basic piano plugin that comes with FL Studio. I'm just playing that on my keyboard here. And as you can see, if let's just create a new pattern here and just call it piano. Let's color it as well. Great. So now if I just go with this step sequencer here, it will only play the middle C of this note. So let's play that. And I can't really do anything here. So let's get rid of that and open up the piano roll like that. So now we have the piano roll here. You can also make it full size like that just by double clicking the title bar here. So now if I want to create a, let's say a chord here, I can just draw out a chord. Let's do that. In FL Studio is one of the best piano rolls I think out there on all of the digital audio workstations out there. For instance, I've been using Logic a lot and Ableton Live a lot, but FL Studio is by far the best piano roll when it comes to flexibility and how to work with different notes. There are a lot of different tools you can use here. I'm not going to go through exactly all of the tools because that would make the course like a year long or something like that. So I want you to explore a lot of these different functions by yourself. I'm going to use a lot of functions when I create the tracks, so you will see how I use them. But if you go to this menu here, you can see all of the different things you can do here in the piano roll. So for instance, you have transpose up and down, which is very handy to have, or one octave up or one octave down, for instance. You have all of the tools here. You can create quick legato, quick quantize, you can arpeggiate, for instance. You have different views you can use, such as key labels, for instance. So you can have all notes showing up here like this. This is very handy as well. You can zoom in and out. You see all of the different key commands here just on the side of the selected thing here. So you have time markers as well. You can create time markers within the piano roll. Yeah, you have a lot of things here, but we're going to focus on the creation of the notes here. So you have all of the different brush tool, pen tool, select tool, and zoom tool, for instance. So just to show you very quickly here, what I use is the draw tool. So with the draw tool, you can create notes like that, and you can also delete notes by just right click. So you left click to create the note and right click to delete it. You can also delete multiple notes like this. And if you want to create notes like that or multiple notes like that, then you go to the paint tool and that will make it like that. So let's go back to the draw tool here. And what I use very often, let's say that I create a chord here and I want to create a chord progression. So I'm going to use the same thing here as well. So instead of just drawing out notes like that, each and every note, you can just use control, just hold control and drag with your mouse like this. So you can now select the notes. If you have a Mac, you're just going to hit and hold the command key and do the same thing. So now I can just do it like this, and I can basically copy and paste it. Now I can just drag it out like that. And I can do the same thing with all of these notes. So let's say that I do it like this, and now I can just move them. Very boring chord progression here. So let's zoom out a bit. You can see you can zoom it like this, and you can also, let's close the channel rack here. I'm going to create a new chord progression here. So let's do it like this. I'm going to lower the tempo a bit. All right, so now I want to use the same notes here, but I'm going to change it up a bit. Yeah, and instead of doing that, you can just select them all here. Just drag them down like that. All right, so we can zoom a bit here, as you can see. And I'm going to copy these as well. And now I'm going to do something else here. So let's say I select these notes. Not the best masterpiece I done, but just to show you how to quickly create notes. So let's take a look at the transposition here. So if I have a lot of different notes selected, or one note, let's say, I can just pull shift and just go with the up and down arrows on my keyboard. And now I can just transpose it by a note here, or by going to control up and down, or command up and down on Mac. And I can go and hold octave up and down. Let's take a look at the mixer now. I'm going to close the piano roll here. And now we have a pattern here called piano. So let's get it out here as well. I'm going to rename and color this track here and call it piano. And yeah, we had such a brownish green kind of color. So let's do that as well. So now I have the piano track here. So we want to assign this piano track and the kick track as well to different mixer channels. So to do that, we can go to our channel rack here, and here you see a little field here that shows you a number. So the number 1 here is linked to the mixer and the mixer channel number 1, or insert 1 here. So I can just, let's say that I want the kick, clap, and the hat and snare to be linked to the same mixer channel. Then I can just go and select it to number 1 here, like that. So now all of these tracks here will play in through the mixer channel 1. So let's disable the piano track for now. I can do that by just clicking there. Now you can see it's not lit up like that, like the other tracks here. So let's just play it and take a look at the mixer. Of course, you need to change it to the song mode. So you can see it's playing through the mixer channel number 1 because we set all of these to mixer channel 1. We don't have the piano set here to any mixer channel, so let's set it to number 2. And let's enable that as well. It's very low in volume. Okay, so I'm going to chain up the velocity here. So what I do here is to just draw it out like that. And now we have full velocity on all of these notes. And this should sound a lot louder. Oh, that was a lot louder. To our mixer here, you can see that here we have a little pan dial here. So this is for all of the different mixer channels. Then we have reverse polarity, so you can reverse that in the mixer here. You can swap left and right channels, so you can swap the different audio that comes from the left to the right and vice versa. Then you have stereo separation, so you can separate the stereo from the audio material that's coming out through this mixer track. Then we have the volume meter here. You have your different inserts, track latency, you can see that as well. You have ARM disk recording, so that comes to when we go to the recording section, you will see what that is all about. Let's take a look at the different inserts you can use in the mixer. So let's go with this piano section here, and we have its mixer section selected here. So when we have that, we can go to this section where you can see the different slots. So what you will do here is to choose one of these slots, and the signal will actually travel through these slots. So if you choose one plugin to be, for instance, on slot 1, that will travel through that plugin and then come to the plugin that you have set on slot 2, and so on and so forth. So let's say slot 1 here, I can just go with, let's say, a delay plugin here like that. And now you will hear the delay coming through, or the signal coming through the delay, and then back to the master track here. And then you have different presets as well, but this is just for this plugin here. So let's close that, and you will see that we have this insert. You can also push how much you want of the effect to be routed through this track here. So basically how much output you want of the effect here. You can also enable and disable that as well. And one more thing that is very nice to know with the mixer is the different view sections. So you can actually have it like this, set up like that, and you will see the big overview of all of your tracks. And yeah, you have a lot of different pre-styled views here. I like this view very much. You can see all of the different inserts here, and yeah, as you know, with all of the things in FL Studio, you can just right click, rename, color, and icon. So this was our piano, right? And we have a green color. So now we have this set as well in the mixer. So we're done with our very short track here for now. So I'm just going to show you how to export and save this track. So you can just save it like you want, and you can just choose a location on your hard drive. So you just save it, rename it, and you have it saved on your hard drive as an FLP file. So you can just open it on FL Studio. If you want to export the track, you can do it by go to export here, and you can choose WAV, MP3, and all of the different files here. So let's say that we want it to be a WAV file. I can just do it like this and choose it. This is a Mac, as you can see here, so it may look a bit different on your computer. But if you go to export, let's say that we want it to be an MP3 file, you can do it like this as well. So if you pass through that save window, you just go and save, you will get this little window here. And you will see all of different modes if you want to export just the pattern or the full song. And you can choose if you want the tail to be leave or if you want it to be cut in the end. So let's say you have a lot of different reverbs at the end. You can just tell FL Studio to let the reverb tail to be played and recorded in the export, or if you just want it to be cut whenever the patterns are ending in the playlist arrangement, even though there may be like a reverb tail or something like that. So you can choose the WAV, MP3, all of these different outputs here as well. You have quality and you have different stuff here as well. So we're going to go through the export settings in a later video in the course, so you will see that as well. But you can also see the length here. This is very nice to have, and the disk space that this track will take up when you have this exported. All right, guys, so this is a very, very brief introduction to FL Studio. Let's dive deep into FL Studio in the next lectures. So see you there.